It's the second day of anti-police brutality protests in the U.S. Police stage nationwide rallies to express outrage over a grand jury decision not to charge a white officer in the choking death of an unarmed African-American man.
This is what democracy looks like. We know what? This is what democracy looks like. NYPD. How you spell racist? NYPD. How you spell murderers? NYPD. This is what democracy looks like.
In Washington, the demonstrators chanted slogans against police racism. In New York, people converged on the city's Foley Square in the vicinity of NYPD headquarters and City Hall. A group of protesters also closed off Brooklyn Bridge as police made several arrests in the city. In Chicago, scuffles erupted between police and protesters. Eric Garner died after being placed in a chokehold by Officer Daniel Pantaleo on Staten Island back in July. Our correspondent Caleb Maupin joins us now with the latest from the protests taking place in New York and other cities across the U.S. Caleb.
Well, the protesters began this evening by gathering in Foley Square, which is the site of a number of the courthouses here in New York, and as well as the central holding facility, the central booking facility where people are taken immediately after they're arrested. Roughly 30,000 people gathered in Foley Square. Some estimate the crowd as possibly being larger than that, but 30,000 is the estimate that most people are giving. It was a huge crowd. And at first, it looked as if the police were trying to keep the crowd restrained in Foley Square and not let them move. But soon the crowd was loose, and the crowd began to move in different ways. Some members of the crowd that were protesting went and shut down the Brooklyn Bridge. Others shut down the West Side Highway on the west side of the island of Manhattan. Still others shut down the East Side Highway. The Holland Tunnel, which connects New York City to New Jersey, was shut down. So all kinds of disruptions are taking place across Manhattan. There doesn't seem to be as intense of the scuffles that we saw last night with the police and protesters, and things seem to be a little bit calmer than they were last night. However, there is a huge number of people in the streets, and they're all over the island of Manhattan, disrupting things, stopping traffic and shutting things down. And this is a continuation of the mass outpouring of anger we're seeing in response to the rise of police brutality.
Caleb, it's also focused on what took place in Phoenix, Arizona. Earlier, it appears that this couldn't have happened at a more sensitive time. Tell us what happened there as well.
Well, I guess it just seems that everything is just building on everything else, right? I mean, that you have the outrage in New York about this Eric Garner decision comes just after the outrage around Michael Brown and the decision not to indict Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri. And now you have this incident of a police officer killing someone in Phoenix, Arizona. And I think what we're learning from this is that these instances happen all the time. People are killed by law enforcement all the time. Police choke people, brutalize people routinely in the United States. But now, because of what happened in Ferguson and what's happening in New York, it's as if people are taking from this that they don't have to just simply go along with things, that if something goes on, if police act unjustly, they have the right to go out and protest and shut things down and cause chaos and bring things to a halt. And that seems to be a widespread message. Now, Phoenix, Arizona in particular, law enforcement in Arizona have quite a bad reputation. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who is a well-known figure in law enforcement, has kind of become a celebrity among kind of the ultra-right-wing anti-immigrant forces for his known brutality to immigrants and other people in Arizona. And there has been long tension between the Latino community of Arizona and the people and the law enforcement forces in Arizona. So there's a wide potential for tension to arise, and the fact that someone was killed, now people in Phoenix, Arizona are protesting. But there have been protests in Chicago tonight as well. From what I understand, major roads, Michigan Avenue in Chicago has been shut down. There are protests taking place in Washington, D.C. There are protests taking place in Orlando, Florida. All across the United States, people are protesting tonight about the fact that law enforcement is out of control, killing people, choking people, shooting people down, and getting away with it. And people seem to feel that other mechanisms that they've tried to address the issue is simply not working, and that they need to be in the streets to challenge the authority of the police.
All right, thank you very much. Caleb Maupin, our correspondent, joining us from New York.